Throughout history, con artists have sold fake bridges, fake identities, and fake fortunes. But how do you pull off the ultimate scam? How do you look a country in the eyes, claim you are their dead prince, and actually convince them to put a crown on your head? Most royal pretenders in history ended up in chains or on the chopping block. But in 1605, one man actually did it. He conned his way into becoming the Tsar of Russia. This is the mind-blowing, dark, and utterly bizarre story of the man history calls False Dmitri I, the most successful imposter of all time. And trust me, the way his story ends is wilder than anything Hollywood could ever write.
To understand how this happened, we have to go back to a dark time in Russia known as the Time of Troubles. The infamous Tsar, Ivan the Terrible, had died, leaving behind a massive power vacuum. His youngest son, Tsarevich Dmitri, was the rightful heir. But in 1591, at just 8 years old, little Dmitri was found dead in a courtyard with his throat slit. The official ruling? The boy had an epileptic seizure while playing with a knife and accidentally stabbed himself. Yes, really. Naturally, nobody bought it. Most people suspected a powerful noble named Boris Godunov had the boy assassinated to steal the throne, which Godunov eventually did. But Russia was soon hit by devastating famines, plague, and civil unrest. The people whispered that Godunov's rule was cursed because he murdered the true prince. And that is when a ghost walked out of the shadows.
Enter a man named Grigory Otrepiev. Historically, we believe Grigory was a highly educated, albeit incredibly ambitious, runaway monk. Around 1603, Grigory turned up in Poland with a spectacular claim. He was Tsarevich Dmitri. He claimed his mother had sensed the assassins coming and smuggled him away, replacing him with another boy who was killed in his place. Did the Polish king and nobility actually believe this runaway monk was Russian royalty? Probably not, but they loved a good excuse to invade Russia. Grigory was smart. He converted to Catholicism, promised the Polish king giant slices of Russian land, and won the backing of a small Polish mercenary army. By late 1604, this self-proclaimed prince crossed the border to claim his throne. As Grigory marched toward Moscow, something incredible happened. The Russian peasants and Cossacks, starving, angry, and desperate for a good Tsar, began deserting their posts to join him. They wanted to believe the true prince had returned. Even when Grigory's forces suffered military defeats, his popularity only grew. Then, the ultimate stroke of luck hit. Tsar Boris Godunov suddenly died. Godunov's teenage son was briefly named Tsar, but the public had zero interest in him. A coup erupted, the young heir was executed, and in June 1605, our mysterious imposter rode triumphantly into the Moscow Kremlin. On July 21, 1605, the runaway monk was officially crowned Tsar of Russia. The con was complete. To seal the deal, the real Dmitri's mother, who had been exiled to a monastery, was brought to Moscow. In front of the entire city, she looked at this stranger, embraced him, and wept, claiming he was indeed her long-lost son. For a brief moment, Dmitri was actually a decent ruler. He cut taxes, tried to educate the nobility, and was surprisingly accessible. But he made one critical mistake. He forgot to act Russian. The deeply conservative, orthodox elites in Moscow quickly noticed some incredibly weird behavior from their new czar. He didn't take naps after lunch, a sacred Russian court custom. He wore European-style clothes instead of traditional royal robes. And most shockingly, he ate ham. Ham was strictly forbidden by Russian Orthodox dietary customs at the time. The final straw came when he married a Polish Catholic noblewoman named Marina Mniszek. He brought hundreds of Polish Catholic soldiers right into the heart of the Kremlin. To the Russian boyars, this wasn't their long-lost Orthodox prince. This was a Polish puppet sitting on their sacred throne.
Just 10 days after his royal wedding, a nobleman named Vasily Shoisky led a massive, angry mob to storm the Kremlin. Hearing the chaos, the imposter tried to escape. He jumped out of a high palace window. But his parkour skills weren't quite up to par. He broke his leg in the fall. The mob quickly surrounded him, dragged him back inside, and hacked him to death. But the Russians wanted to make absolutely sure this ghost never came back. They put his body on display, burned his remains, mixed his ashes with gunpowder, packed him into a giant cannon, and fired him directly back toward Poland.
And that was the explosive end of false Dmitri I, the runaway monk who ruled Russia for 11 incredible months. But the craziest part? Russia's time of troubles was so chaotic that over the next few years, 2 more guys showed up claiming to be Dmitri, escaping death yet again. But neither of them ever managed to hold the crown like the first. So what's the lesson here? If you're gonna lie your way to the top, maybe skip the pork chops, take your afternoon naps, and definitely stay away from open windows. Thanks for watching. If you loved this deep dive into history's wild side, hit that subscribe button